So by the end of this presentation, you will absolutely understand the difference between a goal and a system and how to use both of them as you go through the process of Fresh Start 2022. So welcome back, everyone. So happy to have you guys here for week 2. Just a quick recap of week 1, because again, this is a 6-part series, right? So if you haven't seen that first one, you may want to go back and watch it just to get yourself up to speed, but we'll do a really quick summary here. So this is the workbook that we laid out for you guys last week. So again, if you want a copy of this, the link is either down below if you're watching this on YouTube or Facebook, or if you're on Instagram, then obviously up in the description, bio, link in the bio kind of thing, right, for Instagram. But so here we go. This is the workbook that we have for Fresh Start 2022. Last week, we talked all about self-limiting beliefs, fears, how they get in the way of kind of dreaming big. And we talked about the 10 domains, right? So it kind of gave you a primer for thinking about different areas of your life where you could achieve goals. Because so often we just think about finance and we think about professional goals, but there's really 10 domains, right? So we covered those last week. We're not going to get into them again. But beyond that, then we had the remarkable life exercise. So brainstorming years into the future to think about where you would want to be 5 years from now, what kind of life you'd be living, what kind of values you have, what kind of relationships you'd have with the people in your life, all of those things. And so hopefully you took the time to do that and then broke them out through the theme organizer and have different ideas for each of the different categories, right? Because that's going to come up in today's presentation. So hopefully you took the time to do that. But moving along, because we've got lots to cover today, this is actually an action-packed lesson. We have to go over the idea between goals and habits or systems, okay? This is the one thing that you guys are for sure going to learn this week, so really excited to share this with you. So on the left, we obviously have a system, right, or a goal, or a habit, sorry. Just something that happens continuously over and over and over again versus the goal on the right-hand side, which is kind of like your line in the sand, right, your milestone, your marker. So you can think about this if it's a little bit confusing for you still. The goal is, say, for example, I want to complete a hike. And when you get to the end of the hike, it says, congratulations, you're done. And that's your goal, is to finish the hike. Whereas the system would be to walk, let's say 2 kilometers every hour until the hike is done, right? And that, or take so many steps or whatever it may be, right, over the course of the time. And by adding up all those hours, all those steps, you get to the final destination. So the system contributes to the goal. But when we're talking about our Fresh Start 2022 and designing our remarkable life, we do need a balance of both. We need milestones to look forward to, absolutely. And we'll show you the system, or I'll show you the system that's I find most valuable for goal setting. But we also need habits. We also need systems in place to make sure we're putting in the work that gets us there, right? And we'll dig into this in further weeks as well, but really just need to make sure you guys understand the difference between the two. And so why are habits so important? Why do they need to have their own part in this conversation? Why can't they just be part of the goals? This is a diagram from James Clear's website, and it just shows the idea of getting 1% better every day. Right? For most of us, we couldn't probably imagine what 1% better would look like in our life. If we were 1% better tomorrow, what would that look like? And really, there's no clear, visible example, right? Because 1% is so small, it's so trivial, we really have no idea. But over the course of a whole year, you get 1% better every day. 1.01 to the power of 365, so 1% improvement every single day is a 37-fold improvement from where you were at the beginning of the year. 37 times. When was the last time you look back on your previous year and said that you improved at a 37-fold? Isn't that crazy? And so then the reverse is true though as well. If you get 1% worse every day, then you do see a pretty dramatic drop off as well. So both sides of that equation are true. And so where I want to use this to empower you is just thinking of the idea that it doesn't have to be huge. It doesn't have to be monumental. It doesn't have to be mountain shifting to be effective, right? Even a 1% improvement every single day over the course of the year can have a big payoff. And so that, I think in and of itself is probably the most important lesson. Now that we've dreamed big about our future that we want, we really need to get clear as we're setting goals, picking habits, or picking systems, that even if we have a milestone that's a little scary, that's a little far off, because that's going to be part of our conversation today, is picking something that puts you outside your picking something that puts you outside your comfort zone, right? Because when you do that, that's really where the personal growth and development happens. And that's really, in my opinion, one of the most important reasons to have goals for the year, is just to make sure that you experience that growth and development every single year. You're using your time well. So let's jump in here. Let's continue to talk about habits, seeing as we're on the track of habits, and then we'll finish off with goals. So 4 key components. Again, this is all coming from James Clear. 4 key components of having a habit in place. So you have the cue, you have the craving, you have the reward, and the response, right? So for all through those 4 steps, you get a repeatable habit. And so the cue is simply just making things obvious. So a lot of us, this is time, right? When do you drink your coffee? First thing in the morning when you get up, or on your drive into work, depending, right? When do you turn on Netflix and watch a show? Right after dinner when you get home, right? There's a certain time in the evening that you're programmed to do certain things. And this is so important, right? Because although a lot of times when we're setting resolutions for the future, we think about adding stuff onto our plate. Sometimes it's not just about adding stuff onto our plate, right? As well, sometimes you got to kind of scale things back. So if there's really habits that we don't love that we do on a regular basis that we like to get rid of, then paying attention to this cue is so important as well, right? Because there's a really important saying that you replace bad habits, you never actually remove them, right? So once we understand the cue, then we can think of something else to put in the place of that bad habit. And maybe that's our resolution for the year, right? Is getting rid of a bad habit and implementing it with something neutral or something better, instead of just adding something on and being more and more busy, right? We talked about that the first time. I just had a comment, Jack, you're the best. Thanks, CrossFit Muskoka. Love you guys. Okay, so the other thing to be aware here of motion versus action, right? So if you're always get stuck on this cue phase and, oh, what are my good habits? What are my bad habits? How much time could you possibly spend just having your brain stewing on all the potential cues that trigger your good and your bad habits, and you never actually take action, right? This is called Fresh Start 2022 because we want you to get moving. I want you to be taking assertive action today. So be sure not to get caught on just checking the cues, right? Spend some time, think about it, reflect, find out what cues trigger the habits that you're already doing in your day, and then we'll build from there. So make it obvious. That's cue number one, right? Or if it's a bad habit, then make it really impossibly unattractive, right? That's another option, right? Is make it not obvious. But moving on from there, we have the time, right? We know when we do a certain thing that triggers us. Then we have the craving. So this is what makes it attractive. So for me, I love chocolate. Okay. Chocolate is my weakness. I don't think I could ever pass up a chocolate anything. And so if you know this, you can maybe add it in, right? If you don't like a certain thing, then maybe your reward after it's done is that you have a small piece of chocolate. For me, right? I don't like doing taxes. So maybe at the end of every quarter, you got to get your taxes done by a certain date. When you do, boom, chocolate bar. Craving is stacked on, right? Because you're going to eat that chocolate bar anyway. It's something you already do. And so you can pair it with another activity that you're trying to add into your system to make it more attractive, right? That's called habit stacking when you layer them on top of each other. Next up is the reward. So this is just making it easy. So if we're talking about going to the gym, it's the new year, right? A lot of times we have resolutions about going to the gym. Are you going to pick the one that's the absolute best because you spent all this time in motion, Googling and searching, but it's all the way across town. It's really inconvenient to get to because you have to sit through all this traffic and it's totally out of your way. How often are you actually going to go to that gym? Never. Now, if you're up in Port Carling, you want to check out CrossFit Muskoka. Yes, they are watching this today, so I'll give a big shout out to them. I love the CrossFit Muskoka crowd. That is a great gym. So if you're anywhere near the CrossFit Muskoka area, that one is worth going out of your way because the coaches there are amazing. But okay, I'm getting distracted here. Focus back on making it easy. If you have a route home and there's a gym on the way home, that's the one that you want to go to, right? Because it's already on your route home, right? So making it as easy as possible is the idea with the reward. And then finally, the response is that it's satisfying. And so again, the best way to do this is just to keep track of what you're doing, right? Because again, 1% improvement, you'll never really notice that or pay attention to it unless you're tracking. So let's say you get a paper calendar on the wall and every single day you're doing, you have it, check, 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 check. Until all of a sudden you've got 30 days in a row that you've done it, right? So clearly you're making an improvement. So really quickly, let's recap the 4 stages of the habit formation. You got the cue, the craving, the reward, and the response. So you find out the time of day that it's happening and figure out what kind of sensation you're getting in your body that's triggering that event to happen. Whether it's good or whether it's bad, you need to be aware of it because you're either going to replace it with something good or maybe stack onto it with something better. From there, craving. What makes it attractive to you? What makes it satisfying? If you need to add in something else to get there, maybe a little snack or a treat, don't get too carried away, right? We don't want to be having sugars and treats all day long, but it is a thought or an idea. Maybe going out for a walk is something you enjoy doing. So that's what you add on after you do the new habit that you're not super jazzed about yet. But when you do it over and over again, you will come to love it, I promise you. Because you get better at it, right? And that's the idea, is once you start to master something, you really enjoy continuing to train with it. Next is the reward. Make it easy, right? So make sure if it's something you need to stop in and do on your way home, make sure it's on your route, right? Instead of picking the thing that's all the way across town. And finally, the response. Make sure that's satisfying. So tracking your progress as you go, very, very beneficial. All right, so that takes care of our habits, fast and furious. Like I said, if you're struggling with this, guys, there is the PDF workbook guide. So make sure you go to the link down in the description down below and grab that workbook if you're struggling, because we still got to get through goals today as well. I'm moving along, but it's okay. There's lots to learn. You guys are super smart people, so I know you're keeping up. Okay. We are having some technical difficulties, but it's okay. I will keep going and I hope that the stream is going out to you guys still. I love the framework from Michael Hyatt and company for goal setting. It's the smarter goal setting, and we'll get into the reason why it's smarter, not just smart in a second. But the one thing we got to clarify here is complex goals versus simple goals, right? Because a lot of times we get really down on ourselves. I'm going to speak to you guys at the very end about how many goals you need to have in a year, right? Or trying not to have too many. Because I think a lot of times we have this big dream for the future and there's all these different moving components and we want to do them all right now. Remember, I've said to you guys before, right? You can do anything at any time, but you can't do everything all at the same time, right? There is a difference. So you got to pick and choose which ones are most important to you right now. And this is so important. So if it's a complex goal, it's going to take multiple quarters to complete. So it's going to be more than 3 months in the future. And so if that's the case, then you need to break it down into a simple goal, which is really just a quarter or less. Can you get it done in less than 90 days? So if you have a goal like saving a certain amount of money over the course of the whole year, that's actually going to be 4 goals, right? Because you got to do a certain amount of saving every single quarter. It can't get done in 90 days. So you need to respect that and give it the space in your goal setting template when you go to do so. So that's the first idea. So whether it's a habit or a goal, and obviously if it's a habit and it's continuous, then it's going to show up in each of the 4 quarters. But if it's a goal that takes more than 90 days to complete, then it needs to have breakdowns of simple goals to go along with it. So if you have one habit going through the whole year and then a financial goal, that might be about all you get to, because my recommendation for you guys is going to try to only set 8 goals for the whole year. Now, is that necessarily the case? Maybe, maybe not, right? If you get really good at the habit and after 90 days, you feel like it's just ingrained, it's never going anywhere, you love it so much, then you can maybe add another habit as you go. But less is more, guys. Really and truly, less is more. So make sure you keep that in mind when you're picking. That's going to be homework for today, is to use this smarter framework that I'm going to share with you guys in a second. Pick your 8 simple goals, 2 for each quarter, and really, really try and stick to that framework. And I promise you, you'll have so much more success achieving all these goals than you would otherwise. So what is the smarter framework? Let's get to it, Jack. Quit dragging your feet. First one is specific, right? So we need to be really clear on what it is we're doing. If we're talking about, looking good in our gym clothes, what does that actually mean? Do we want to gain muscle? Do we want to lose weight? How much? What is our goal? Is it just simply a habit of showing up to the gym? Is that what we want to keep track of? Being really clear about what it is you're doing. Needs to be measurable. That's the M in smarter, right? So if it's measurable, then you can measure your progress. If it's showing up to the gym every day, again, check boxes on the calendar. If it's lifting a certain amount of weight, did you or did you not do it? If it's losing a certain amount of weight or gaining a certain amount of muscle, did you or did you not do it? Measurable. Okay. Next is actionable. It needs to be something that you can do right now. So if you're 14 years old and your goal is to drive a car, there's lots you can do to learn, but until you're 16, you're not going to be able to get that driver's license and actually drive your friends out and do something fun. So it needs to be actionable today, right? It needs to be something you can take action on right now. So make sure that it's got that next step into it. Otherwise, you're setting yourself up for failure. If you have this vision for something in the future and you can't figure out what the next step is, then maybe it's something you want to put on the back burner for a little bit until you come back and have that clear next step. Now, the next one, the R, risky. Okay, it's got to feel challenging. If you're going to achieve personal growth, then it has to be outside your comfort zone. And to do that, it has to seem a little crazy, a little challenging at the beginning, right? Otherwise, there's a lot of research that suggests if your goals are too small, then you're not going to feel satisfied when you accomplish them because you knew you could do better before you started. So a risky goal is something you really don't know if you see every step along the way. Like I said, it's just actionable. So there's one step you can take and then you vision the future, finish line in the future. If you can do that, you're golden. Next is time keyed. So again, this is just being clear. If it's going to take more than 90 days, then you need to have a 90-day milestone or a simple goal to make sure that you're moving along at a consistent pace. Don't overwhelm yourself with something that's too huge. Chunk it down into smaller steps. Last 2 kind of go together. The E and the R of smarter, exciting and relevant. So again, it's got to be relevant to your life right now. Is it the most important thing you're doing now? We have this vision for 5 years in the future. Not everything is going to happen today. What is most important to you, most relevant to your life right now? That's the R. And then exciting. Are you fired up about it? Do you have passion when you say that is the thing I'm going to accomplish? Are you excited to tell your friends? Because if you're not, then chances are that you're going to fall off, right? You're going to lose focus at some point over the course of the year. So you got to make sure you're excited about it. So again, in the workbook, this is all laid out for you, but you're going to go through, pick one brainstorm that you came up with from each of the 10 domains in your life, from that remarkable life reflection you did last week. Go through and use the smarter framework, whether it's a goal or a habit, use the same one, right? The other idea, there's an implementation intention in the workbook. You can use that as well for your habits if that's a little bit easier for you to wrap your mind around, and limit yourself to 8, okay? 8 habits and goals combined. If it's a complex goal, i.e. meaning it takes more than 90 days, you need simple goals for each quarter until it's completed, right? So there might not be as many goals on your annual plan as you would originally think. And I promise you guys that that's going to be beneficial because it's going to help you stay focused on the things that are most important. So this is a long one. I knew it was going to be. Thank you guys for staying with me all the way through. It's so valuable that you understand the difference between habits and goals. I hope I made that clear for you today. And I hope I gave you some guidance on how many is an appropriate amount, because this is definitely, I think there's a lot of high achievers that are watching this that are going to think, I'm going to do 16, I'm going to do 20 goals this year, 4 a quarter, 8 a quarter, whatever it is. Don't overwhelm yourself, right? You're so much better off focusing on a few key goals and then having those simple goals that can get done in 90 days, the milestones, if it's something that takes a little bit longer. That way you continue building that momentum. Because remember, the 1% improvement over the course of a whole year is 37 times better than when you started. So this is my challenge, my invitation to you guys to be 37 times better than you are at the beginning of the year, at the end of 2022, and it starts by getting clear on what you want to achieve. Have your specific, measurable, actionable, risky, time-bound, exciting, and relevant goals or habits written down for next week, and we're going to talk about making sure that they all fit into your schedule, because we got to double check that, right? Even though I challenge you to keep it simple, I feel like a few of us probably are going to overreach this week, so we're going to come back next week and double check, make sure that there's time in our calendar to make that happen. If you guys have any thoughts or suggestions about goals, habits that you're looking forward to this year, you want to make sure you have all the different boxes checked for the smarter framework, or you want to make sure they follow the implementation intention, go ahead and throw them in the comments down below. I'll try and get back to you guys all as soon as I can. Until then, take care, guys. Thank you so much as always for tuning in, and we'll be back here next Wednesday at 2 o'clock for the next episode of Fresh Start 2022. Take care, guys. Have a good one.